So I want to talk to you about Naomi Osaka. She's the world-class tennis player who withdrew from the French Open rather than continue to face $15,000 fines for refusing to grant media interviews. She talked to reporters after winning her first round match, but said she didn't want to do it again to protect her own mental health. I was listening to a clip from Mike Greenberg, one of Mike Greenberg's shows last week on ESPN Radio. And in the interest of full disclosure, he is somebody who at one time I worked for him. But he said a lot of the same things on that program. Athletes don't need us anymore. They don't need us in the same way. They have no obligation to us. And in a lot of ways, it brings a new responsibility to sports journalists to think about how we approach them in the same way we would approach any other person. Say after a loss, that's kind of a trauma in their workplace in some ways. And we've stopped treating athletes as anything beyond their sport.
Well, in many ways, we've never treated them any other way but the sport, the game, that particular moment. And now that these athletes have the ability to be able to create their own brands, and many of them have, they're basically saying, I'm going to control my narrative, and I'm going to be the one to make a determination as to who I'm going to talk to and who I'm not going to talk to. And that's what's happening right now. And you have these national and international sporting authorities, be it tennis, be it golf, be it whatever, who are basically saying, yeah, but we want to be able to control this too. And now you've got this back and forth going on right now. And I think the athletes are winning, and they should, because they're the ones in control of their mental health. They're the ones who are in control of their story and how they see themselves and how the public sees them. And so I think we as journalists are going to have to recognize that and start building relationships with these athletes that's more than just the game.
Well, beat reporters have for a long time had relationships with their sources, their athletic sources, just like any beat reporter would. And a good beat reporter does build a relationship with those sources. I think, this is kind of a complicated situation. First of all, I go back to my comments earlier about press conferences. I think they're overrated. And those post-game press conferences are really particularly awful.
And you get nothing out of them.
Nothing.
But think about that for a second, because the purpose of those post-game press conferences in some ways is to limit, like I think back to all of the days when I would go into a locker room, say a major league clubhouse, and you've got this big scrum of reporters and photographers literally crowding around an athlete who's in his underwear, right? Like, how many of our other sources would we walk up to unclothed and invade their privacy in that way to have that authentic conversation?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's what was my second point.
Yeah.
The press conferences are actually created for the convenience of the athletes. I mean, these are celebrities, and any PR person, my dad was a PR person for a football team, you do that so that everybody gets their question, and then the athletes can go home.
Right.
So they don't. So it really is created for the convenience of the athletes, but it has become a set piece. And if Naomi Osaka's having depression, she's got a lot more problems than whether or not she's going to have a press conference. This, to me, mixing up media relations with somebody's mental health struggles is. One shouldn't have anything to do with the other.
And I think the only reason that they started to was because it created that space for a conversation about a bigger kind of dialogue.
But I also think it was the Tennis Association basically saying, no, you have to do this, and if not, we're going to fine you, and we're going to fine you heavily, and we may even force you to withdraw from the tournament. That's when the public went, whoa, wait a minute, you have that kind of control over whether someone does a press conference. That became the story, and her mental health issues also became a part of the story, and that is what was really driving this.